self-inflicted gunshot. It's good to note that. So black people ain't even kill nobody. But look at this. There were at least five rapes. Oh, there that goes again. Why? How does that get in this? Even if you just leave it, even if you just separate everything and just say, you know what? We are violent and we like to kill. We like to see bloodshed. How in the hell did rape get into it? Even if you just beat up people or you're shooting people, but you don't want to stop there. You actually got to go as far as raping people. What the fuck is wrong with you? These are the people that you are letting lead society. Not just because they're leading society, but because your reaction to this type of shit is nothing. You brushing it off. You leaving it there. You letting it happen. Why? Because it's happening to black people. That shit doesn't make you human. That is a problem. And some people can say shit like, well, you know, that's my brother and I have to, you know, look out for my brother. Okay, maybe your brother, that's one person. But even your brother, if you know that your brother is this type of person and have these types of tendencies, you, one, either need to deal with your brother yourself, or two, at least shield society from his ass. Why would you unleash this on society? Not to mention, you letting him be the fucking loudest. And now he's got people behind him, and they're following him. And now they're mimicking him. How could white people not know that this shit creates a immoral society? It not just creates a immoral society, it builds on the immoral society that you claim to have been getting rid of during the Civil War. This was the point of you all fighting for it, right? Because it was wrong. Slavery is wrong. It's bad. It's immoral. But you let your criminals, your murderers, your rapists, let me change that. You let white criminals, white murderers, white racists, white rapists, you unleash them on other communities because you've discarded a whole group of people as not human. That is not morally right. It's totally immoral. There's nothing moral about that. Well, I'm going to let them kill, steal, and rape because they only doing it to black people. Really? Really, white people? Really? Because see, this is what y'all doing right now. This is what y'all doing right now today. You are letting your political leaders with these tendencies lead the overall country, lead a lot of these states, and now we can hear the rhetoric. We can hear them say this shit and talk this shit. And you think that by you sitting by and letting it happen, that you are a moral person? No. You think by staying quiet it makes you a moral person? No, you don't get no points for that. You should be the main ones trying to uproot this shit from your community because it's a reflection of you. Remember after, it wasn't after. During the Holocaust, I'm saying it. I'm not trying to censor anything. Okay. Everybody gets scared when you talk about Jewish people and all that shit. Fuck that. I don't care about that shit. Like, ain't no, what did I call them at first? I'm not doing no disclaimers before I say anything. No, I ain't doing that shit. And no disclaimer. No, let's just say what the fuck it is. Because in the same manner that I talk about slavery, I'll talk about the Holocaust. In the same way that I talk about the perpetuators of slavery, I'll talk about the perpetuators of the Holocaust. In the same way that I talk about the northern bystanders who sat by and allow slavery to permeate the society and expand. I'll talk about the white Jewish people who sat by and allow the hatred to permeate their own society. Yes, you did that. You said that it was okay for this person to discriminate against somebody for whatever reason. And then what happened? The shit eventually spilled over to you. And so now, of course, it's horrible. It's a horrible event. People shouldn't have to die. People shouldn't have to die in these fucking massacres. But why did they die in these massacres? Because there were white people who stood by and let it happen. In the same way the people were killed in the Holocaust. In the same fucking way. They let the others in their community be harassed, beaten, raped, pillaged. They let it. There were neighbors that let this shit happen during the Holocaust. And then the U.S. was so bad that they kept the shit going here in America, even during the Holocaust. Because what did Hitler say? He said, "Oh, I just studied Jim Crow." And that's how I started doing this shit. I just studied Jim Crow. When Hitler first started with his brown shirts or whatever, they used to go and target the most vulnerable in the community. He first targeted the mentally retarded people in the community. Then he was targeting the elderly people in the community. And then it just carried over. It just grew from that. People knew that shit was happening. They didn't say nothing. The same way these people didn't say nothing. The same way these congressional members in this investigation somehow tried to steer this shit towards Irish people, towards the white Irish. Remember, they didn't like them too, right? Remember, they didn't actually become white until the 40s or 30s, maybe the 20s. The early 19th century is when they became white. So we know that these people are violent and shit, but we gonna blame it. We know the regular white people, former Confederates, are violent and shit. But instead, we're going to blame it on the Irish. Because shit, they white. And then we could still explain the racial tension there. We don't have to go all the way into it because we could just use the Irish. We ain't got to tell on us. We can still point out that it's racial tension, though. That didn't help the problem. It made it worse. Because now these white former Confederates is like, oh, well, shit, the federal government ain't gonna do shit. So, shit, y'all ready for next week? Shit, well, I heard about this black community, this other black community. Let's go massacre that bitch. Yeah, that might be cool. Shit, see you next week. Because they ain't do shit. Federal government didn't do nothing. They make them believe that something would happen to them if they keep massacring black people. They ain't do shit about it. The most they did was on the federal level, which that was just a piece of paper. Hell, remember the Confederates didn't even recognize the federal government as a government, as a legitimate government. They said, y'all ain't no fucking government. If you a government, you don't run us. Well, we got our own state. We doing our own shit. This is how you get the argument of states' rights and federalism and sectionalism. Now remember, all these terms were made up. Okay? All these terms were made up to teach the Civil War. None of these were not really the issue. The issue around the Civil War was slavery. That's it. It was solely based on slavery. The states did not want to recognize the power of the federal government. They wanted to be able to have their own little federal governments within their state, which is exactly what happened. Because you can see that now, how you can cross from one state to the next and the laws completely change. You can cross from one state to the next and the laws are opposite. In a sense, they was able to get what they wanted. I mean, they lost slavery, but hell, the way they see it, shit, we'll get it. We'll make up for it some other place. Eventually they did. You see in the southern states a trend of some of the lowest paying wages in the country. Yeah. They want the cheapest labor. These are the same people. These are the same, families. Or these are the same people with that same mindset behind about labor and working and paying people, what they are owed. They don't want to do it. They'll go to any extent to pay the least amount that they have to. So much so that in 2023, the federal minimum wage is $7.25. No one can live on $7.25. This just underscores how the challenge of rebuilding the South and protecting Black people